Our club has always been a forum for public figures, thought leaders, and decision makers to share their ideas. Here, we offer access to dynamic political, business, and public personalities.
We are dedicated to encouraging debate on the issues that matter to this city, this province, and this country.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts, and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, we are going to get started. I should say we are now live online. There are hundreds of people who have joined us. Welcome them. Welcome our online guests, people in the audience. They're far more enthusiastic than they sound, online guests. Welcome to the event. My name is David Simmons. I'm president of the Canadian Club of Toronto, and I'm your host this morning. This morning, we're happy to welcome a physically distanced, fully vaccinated audience to our fourth event of our 125th season. The enthusiasm. Scott, how are you? This is, so our guest online, this literally feels like a wedding, like my heart is full. Like I can see Mike Wilson's in the room, Greg's here from former deputy, like there's just so many people, Owie, like Dan, it's great, Rocco's here. Okay, back to the script. Welcome. As you watch today's events, please engage with us on social media. There are hashtags at your table, and there's also hashtags appearing on your screen. We are about to welcome Ontario's Minister of Finance to share details about how this government continues to move Ontario forward out of the pandemic. From healthcare to infrastructure to support for workers, the focus is on Ontario's recovery from the devastating effects of our global pandemic. If you have questions for the Finance Minister, please write them on the Q&A cards found on your table, and we will collect them after his address. For those of you joining us remotely, we invite you to hit the button on your screen that says Submit a Question. That button allows you to submit a question. I will review those questions and ask the ones that I like. Hey, Steve, how are you? Good to see you. At this time, I want to acknowledge our sponsors, the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, represented by Carol Wilding, President and CEO. Carol, wave to the audience. Thank you, Carol. I'd also like to thank our other sponsor, Canada Life Assurance Company, represented by Ali Gassi, Vice President, Industry Affairs and Government Relations. Ali, thank you for being here. Thank you for my benefits. I appreciate it. They're my provider. You should go online, look at them. They're great. And we're also being supported today by Labatt, represented by Jeff Ryan, Vice President, Legal and Corporate Affairs. Jeff. Great Canadian brewery, if you're interested. Check it out. And finally, TD, represented by Raymond Chun, President, TD Direct Investing. Can you guess who my bank is? It's very comfortable. I'd also like to acknowledge Waste Connections for joining us to be our online sponsor today. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Simon Dwyer from Bell Canada for their sponsorship of a youth and young leaders table from Ryerson's Leadership Lab. Where are the leaders from the lab? Yes, welcome, Ryerson. Thank you for being here. Now, let me welcome Carol Wilding, President and CEO of CPA Ontario, to introduce our speaker. Carol.
Good morning. Thank you, David. Just got to navigate here a little bit. Earrings and masks do not go together. Let me just first say I'm absolutely delighted to be here with everybody and all of our virtual guests. But if I have to be honest, and it's nothing against everybody at home in sweatpants, we're probably a little bit jealous. I'm so delighted to actually be here in person. This is my first breakfast event, and like you, David, it's like old homecoming, just seeing a whole bunch of people that you haven't seen in a long time. So very excited to be here. It's been an incredibly long 2 years for all of us, and I know that we've all experienced firsthand, either in our work lives or certainly in our personal lives, the pandemic changing how we make decisions and how we plan for the future. Over the past 2 years, businesses and workplaces have had to literally adapt to survive. And personally, I've witnessed the nearly 100,000 chartered professional accountants across this province step up. They have been working tirelessly to leverage their financial expertise, their strategic thinking, their management skills, and their leaderships to keep the lights on and the doors open at companies and businesses across this province. In particular, I am incredibly proud of how our profession came together in the early months of the pandemic and put together an initiative that we called Accounting for Bravery. Effectively, what that involved was we saw thousands of CPAs from across this province provide support to frontline healthcare workers by doing their tax returns free of charge. I know how excited you are to do your tax returns annually, but this was our way of helping frontline workers. So whether it was a nurse, a lab technician, a cleaner, anybody on the front lines, absolutely anybody who was on the front lines of the pandemic, our members came together, thousands of them from across the province, and did that free of charge. So yes, we're very proud. Importantly, not a single piece of paper was used. It was done completely online. No paper tax receipts, all done online. And that's just one example of how the pandemic fundamentally changed how so many of us work, instantly shifting our entire world to the digital realm. Which is why it's particularly meaningful that we're here today together. 2 years ago, I remember speaking with Minister Bethlenfalvy at a function like this just prior to the pandemic. We had a long conversation about his work at Treasury Board as president and his efforts to move our provincial government forward through digitization. Now, he made it clear that it was a personal goal of his to transform how governments interact with citizens and bring services that we all depend on into the digital age. Now, more than ever, we can see the value of his foresight to create Ontario's digital strategy through the context of a global pandemic. The groundwork he laid with this strategy allowed Ontario to work with the private sector and federal government to develop the COVID-19 Alert app. Through the sharing of code, Ontario's digital strategy helped businesses to build new apps to tackle the pandemic and help jurisdictions across our country adapt and deliver better services for all of us. I know this minister is tackling Ontario's economic recovery with the same foresight and ambition. Since becoming Ontario's Minister of Finance, he made his top priority to lay the groundwork for our province's economic recovery as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. When appointed Minister of Finance in the midst of the pandemic, Minister Bethlenfalvy just weeks later delivered a budget that shifted provincial government priorities to supporting businesses, workers, and families that were hardest hit by the pandemic. This finance minister acted quickly to build and expand our provincial healthcare system with new funding and deliver new critical programs and tax measures to support individuals, families, and job creators. Now the minister is turning his attention to the recovery. With the province's fall economic statement, Minister Bethlenfalvy is getting shovels in the ground on critical infrastructure, attracting increased investment, and restoring our province's leadership in auto manufacturing and other industries. I want to assure you, Minister, that CPA Ontario's 100,000 members across this province are keen to support those investments as we help kickstart Ontario's economy. I know we all look forward to hearing more from you today on your plan to build Ontario. So please join me in a warm welcome for the Honourable Peter Bethlenfalvy, MPP for Pickering-Uxbridge and Ontario's Minister of Finance.
Well, Well, thank you, Carol. What a great introduction. I always say I wish my mother was here because she wouldn't believe half of that. It's a real honor to be here, and in the 125th year of the Canadian Club, I was thinking back, was I at the first one? But no, I wasn't. I'm not that old. You know, what a remarkable track record for Canadians to have the Canadian Club to inform and talk about the issues that matter to all Canadians. I want to thank you again, Carol, for that very thoughtful and kind introduction. I want to thank the head table, David, and others. I want to thank my wife, Paula Hughes, right here, who joined me today for breakfast. Said, "You want to go out for breakfast?" She said, "Sure." So, and I said it would be with 150 of my closest friends. You know, I also want to single out a person at the head table, a very special welcome to Dr. Karen Schnarr. Now, as she was introduced, Karen is the Associate Professor of Policy and Law at the Lazaridis School of Business and Economics at Wilfrid Laurier University. She also served as the chair of Ontario's Task Force on Women in the Economy, which I announced in the March 2021 budget. Because the pandemic deepened the many unique and disproportionate barriers that women face, economic barriers. Based on the insights provided by Dr. Schnarr, and I want to thank her and her task force, the 9 members, their consultation with participants from the public and from the private and the nonprofit sectors, she helped and her team helped the government introduce measures to address the unique economic challenges facing women as the province continues the fight against the pandemic, which includes committing to the Investing in Women's Future program, raising the minimum wage and eliminating the special minimum wage for liquor servers, investing in targeted supports for Indigenous, Black, and racialized entrepreneurs, and establishing a diversity inclusion governance structure within the Skilled Trades Ontario. So thank you, Dr. Schnarr and your team. Our government will continue to work towards delivering on the task force recommendations, ensuring women have every opportunity to excel in Ontario. Thank you. So I'm very happy to be here today to share our government's plan, as Carol mentioned, for growing a stronger economy that works for everyone. It's a plan that begins with our record of strong pandemic management, but also looks beyond to the challenges we face as a province and how we will address them, to build an Ontario that not only leads Canada in economic growth, but North America as well. This is our plan for jobs. It's our plan for opportunities, and it's our plan to build Ontario. C'est notre plan pour créer des emplois, notre plan pour créer des possibilités, et c'est notre plan pour bâtir l'Ontario. From the very beginning of the pandemic, we have been transparent and accountable to the people of Ontario. We were the first province to provide a fiscal update during COVID-19, the very first province, on March 25th of 2020. And like clockwork, we have reported back regularly on the state of the province's finances. Just as a CEO is accountable to its shareholders, it is my job as Minister of Finance to be accountable to Ontario taxpayers. As we reported in the 2021 Ontario Economic Outlook and Fiscal Review, Ontario's economy has proven to be resilient throughout the pandemic. And we have seen significant improvement in the province's financial position as a result. For 2021-2022, we are projecting a deficit of $21.5 billion, which is $11.6 billion lower than the outlook published in the 2021 budget. And as we work towards economic and fiscal recovery, our plan will continue to strengthen critical programs and services and invest in the future. It is a plan that dreams big and lays out a clear path to take us there. One of the important reminders from the pandemic is that our healthcare system is linked. Public health is linked to ICU capacity, is linked to mental health, is linked to surgical wait times. And we have to build our capacity in all 4 of these pillars together, as Carol mentioned. Likewise, our economy is linked. And we have to, through prudent economic investment, attract investment across this province and restore our leadership in resource extraction, steel, manufacturing, and other industries. These investments and these industries will allow us to unlock the awe-inspiring potential of Ontario's north and access to the resources that hold the power to fuel a manufacturing renaissance in this province. With abundant critical minerals to build a resilient and strong supply chains for electric vehicles and battery manufacturing right here in Ontario. But in order to attract more investment in these industries, we need skilled workers. And that requires us to expand training and encourage more young people to pursue rewarding, well-paying jobs and the skilled trades. Keeping these skilled workers in Ontario requires us to invest in communities with better health care and stronger local infrastructure, supply chains that keep essential goods moving, and roads, transit, and highways that make it easier to get to where you need to go. It's all linked. Our economy is a machine. And if one part of that machine is not working to its full potential, it holds us all back. But if Ontario is firing on all cylinders, there is no other place than I'd rather be than here in Ontario. Our plan is ambitious, it is forward-looking, and most important, it is achievable. And here's how. It starts with the first pillar of our plan, which is protecting our progress. Our government has learned the hard-fought lessons of the pandemic. Notre gouvernement a tiré de dures leçons de la pandémie. The pandemic revealed the neglect in our health and long-term care system by previous governments. And we are not going to repeat those mistakes. And it starts with our seniors. Our plan includes building more spaces for our seniors, including 30,000 net new long-term care beds. But our plan isn't just about building beds. It's about building better beds. Our promise to Ontario seniors is that they can live in comfort, dignity, and safety. That is why we're going to raise the bar for what constitutes acceptable care in our long-term care homes. We've already come far, but we've committed $4.9 billion to increase direct care for residents to an average of 4 hours per resident per day over 4 years. That will create 27,000 new positions for registered nurses, registered practical nurses, and personal support workers in long-term care. To put that in context, in 2018 staffing data, residents received an average of 2 hours and 45 minutes of direct care from nurses and PSWs. Beginning this month, we are providing homes with funding of up to $270 million to increase this average to 3 hours. And our plan puts higher standards and more accountability in place by doubling the number of long-term care inspectors across the province and hiring 225 new nurse practitioners in the long-term care sector. Throughout the pandemic, the dedication and sacrifice of Ontario's frontline healthcare workers cannot be understated. And neither can the toll the pandemic has taken on their physical and mental well-being. They were there for us, and we need to be there for them. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because we need to ensure our healthcare workforce is supported to protect the capacity of our healthcare system. That's why we are recruiting more than 5,000 new registered nurses and registered practical nurses throughout the healthcare system and hiring 8,000 more personal support workers. We're also investing to ensure our healthcare workers can access mental health and addictions support, investing to expand home and community care so patients can recover where they are most comfortable, at home, and helping more seniors live with safety and dignity in their own homes by proposing to extend the Seniors' Home Safety Tax Credit to 2022. But building capacity requires staff, not only staff, but it also requires infrastructure. That's why our government is getting shovels in the ground to build and expand hospitals, from the new Windsor-Essex Acute Care Hospital in Windsor, to building a new inpatient care tower at the Queensway site in Etobicoke, working with Trillium Health Partners, to planning for a new modern hospital facility for the Oak Valley Health Uxbridge Hospital, Because after years of neglect, our government is finally providing our loved ones with the quality of health care they deserve. But to deliver that quality of care, we need the federal government to come to the table. That's why we will continue to join our provincial and territorial partners in calling on the federal government to increase its share of health funding through the Canada Health Transfer and maintain this level over time with a minimal annual escalator of 5%. If the pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that we need to strengthen our healthcare system, now more than ever. Our plan addresses the progress we have made against the pandemic, but it also looks forward to our ambitious vision for our province. To achieve that vision, we will have to address some of the long-standing challenges to Ontario's economic growth. Challenges that, frankly, previous governments, in my opinion, did not do enough to address. Challenges like economic productivity. Not only has Ontario lagged behind other jurisdictions in productivity, we lag other provinces, as well as the national average of 1.2%. Another challenge is population growth. The number of seniors aged 65 and over is projected to almost double from about 2.6 million in 2020 to almost 4.5 million by 2046. That means fewer workers supporting more retirees and more pressure on our healthcare capacity. That's why immigration is critical to our long-term prosperity. As the Premier has said, we have more jobs than workers. We're expecting our population to increase by almost 5.3 million by 2046. The GTA alone is projected to have a population of 10 million. And as we address the first challenge, we will have to address the second. Population growth will require infrastructure, transit, highways, hospitals, housings, and high-speed internet. Tomorrow's prosperity depends on getting shovels in the ground today. La prospérité de demain repose sur les chantiers qui sont lancés aujourd'hui. That's why our government is building Ontario. For too long, our roads and highways and transit systems have not kept pace with growing population. Gridlock is already costing the Greater Toronto Area $11 billion per year in lost productivity. Too many precious hours are wasted stuck in traffic instead of spent with family and friends. And without real leadership today, it will only get worse. More gridlock, more traffic, more time wasted, more opportunities missed. That's why our government is investing in highways that will get Ontario drivers out of gridlock, including finally building Highway 413 and reducing commute times for over 300,000 drivers in Halton, in Peel, and in York by about 30 minutes each day during rush hour. The construction of the 413 is estimated to create 3,500 new jobs and contribute $350 million to our economy. The evidence is clear. It is time to build highways. It's time to build the 413. We're also building the Bradford Bypass and cutting driver times in Simcoe and York region for commuters and truckers by over 60%. We've committed over $2.6 billion this fiscal year to expand and repair Ontario's highways and bridges. We're also planning to repair and expand more than 580 provincial highways and bridges over the next 4 years. We're continuing our progress on the largest subway expansion in Ontario's history, delivering on our commitment of two-way, all-day GO Transit, and conducting further feasibility work on a proposed northeastern passenger rail service from Toronto to Timmins. Our government recognizes that the foundation of our recovery must be laid in every corner of this great province. And that includes in regions that have been ignored for too long, which is why we are doubling the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund over 5 years to support over 400 small, rural, and northern municipalities. Not only will these projects create good-paying jobs over the next 5 years, they will help keep our communities safe and support the recovery of main streets right across the province. When our government talks about laying the foundation for growth in every corner of our province, we must also talk about Ontario's north. For too long, The 24,000 people who call Ontario's far north home, 90% of whom identify as First Nations, have been denied investment and opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to finally make real investments in the north, starting with the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is one of the most important mineral deposits in all of Canada. It can be a vital source of economic development for communities across the north, and especially for First Nations communities. Critical minerals are essential to the batteries, the electric vehicles, the electronics manufacturing that our economy badly needs. That is why we've committed to building critical legacy infrastructure, including all-season roads and high-speed internet. An investment in the Ring of Fire is an investment in northern prosperity for the people of Ontario and, frankly, for all Canadians. But it takes more than money to build better roads and highways or to get new hospital and long-term care spaces off the ground. It also takes workers. And one of the challenges we must address is our province's skill gap. Ontario has the lowest share of adults with an apprenticeship or trades credential of 4.5%, which is well below the Canadian average of 10.5%. But what does this statistic mean in practice? It means fewer workers with the skills that we need to build transit, to build housing, and to build other infrastructure. Fewer workers with the skills we need to attract investment in advanced manufacturing, including electric vehicles and battery technology. Fewer workers with the skills needed to grow the economy. And that is why our government is committed to working for workers. We want Ontario workers in a race to the top, not a race to the bottom. Nous voulons que les travailleuses et les travailleurs de l'Ontario puissent améliorer leur sort au lieu de voir leur situation se détériorer. It starts with recognizing that many workers and families in this province are struggling. Take-home pay has not kept pace with rising costs of essentials that families rely on, like groceries. During the pandemic, workers had our backs, and our government will always have theirs. And that's why our government is proposing to raise Ontario's general minimum wage to $15 an hour, effective January 1st. We are also eliminating the legal exceptions that allowed liquor servers in bars and restaurants to be paid less than the general minimum wage. And we will resume raising the minimum wage on an annual basis, starting with the Ontario Consumer Price Index on October 1st, 2022. While other politicians in other places talk about doing more to help workers, our government, under the leadership of Premier Doug Ford, has delivered real action that puts workers first. And we're just getting started. We're investing an additional $5 million into the Second Career Program and expanding its scope to include newcomers, gig workers, and people with disabilities. And proposing to extend the Ontario Jobs Training Tax Credit to 2022, which provides up to $2,000 for 50% of the eligible training expenses for workers to upgrade their skills. So if you are prepared to put in the work, time, and effort to learn a new skill to support your family, our government is prepared to put the money in and give you every opportunity to see it through. Skilled trades provide good jobs that can support families, but too few young people see the trades as a career opportunity. And that's why our government is investing an additional $90 million in a skilled trade strategy that will break the stigma and make it even easier to learn a trade in the province of Ontario. That'll ensure that workers have the skills that they need, but it's just one side of the coin. We also need to support businesses and attract investments that will create thousands of good-paying jobs for Ontario workers. That's why we have enabled over $10 billion in cost savings and supports for Ontario businesses, including over $6 billion for small businesses. That includes our hospitality, tourism, and culture sectors, which were particularly hard hit by the pandemic. Which is why we have proposed a new Ontario staycation tax credit for 2022, a tax credit that would put money back in the pockets of Ontario travelers and families when they choose to travel right here at home in the beautiful province of Ontario. And this will also provide a helping hand to the workers and entrepreneurs and our vibrant hospitality, tourism sector, our food and accommodation sectors. You know, there was a time not long ago when Ontario was a manufacturing powerhouse in North America. But previous governments failed to support Ontario's manufacturing workers and drove 300,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs out of the province. The impact of these losses wasn't just felt by workers themselves. The impact was felt by families, by communities. The compounded social and economic cost of those 300,000 lost manufacturing jobs and the abandoning of our manufacturing sector by previous governments cannot be understated. That's why our government is committed to creating thousands of well-paying jobs for Ontario workers in the industries of the future. Since our government came to power, for example, we have seen almost $6 billion in new investment commitments in Ontario's auto sector from major manufacturers, including a $1 billion investment from General Motors to manufacture a new line of electric vehicles at its Ingersoll facility, and $1.3 billion to reopen its Oshawa assembly plant and production at its facility in St. Catharines. Ontario is the economic engine of Canada, and we have the opportunity to establish Ontario Made as the gold standard in electric vehicle manufacturing worldwide. It is an opportunity that our government refuses to let us pass by. Our government recognizes that the pandemic is not over, but we are also looking forward to the future. And despite repeated calls to impose painful tax hikes on Ontario families and job creators, we have chosen a different path. Our plan for recovery is built on growth, not tax increases or spending cuts. Our plan is prudent and responsible. It's a plan to protect the progress we have made. It's a plan to build for the future. And it's a plan to work for the workers who make it all happen. Our province cannot afford to go back to the politics of no. Instead, let's say yes. Yes to building. Yes to investing. Yes to growing. And let's say yes to the better and brighter future that the people of Ontario deserve. Thank you very much. I guess we're 6 feet apart.
I'm gonna just move over. I've never done that before. Move away. Thank you for those remarks, Minister. I like the end. Say yes. Say yes, everyone. I've never seen a room of people that want him to say yes more, not saying yes now. We'll talk to you afterward. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for those remarks. I have a lot of questions here. I'm going to go through them. It's time for oral questions. That was a Queen's Park joke.
Yeah, no, I got question period in a few hours, so
all these
it's a good warm-up.
staffers acting like they don't. Anyway, it's okay. Before I go into the tough questions, if there were 3 things that you wanted Ontarians to remember from your remarks this morning, what are those 3 things?
Well, 3 things. Thanks, David. I do believe in the power of 3, so you really tapped into that. You know, that investment in protecting our health care system and protecting the progress we've made against COVID-19 is absolutely critical. Secondly, working for workers. There are more jobs than workers over the next couple of decades. We have a supply-demand imbalance. We got to do more together, and that's why you probably, that is why you saw the biggest labor union leaders standing shoulder to shoulder with myself and the Premier a couple of weeks ago, working for workers. And number 3, a plan to build Ontario. You know, investing in infrastructure is so critical to our future. It improves productivity. It's real assets funded at low interest rates right now. It's not just highways, but it's transit, it's internet, it's hospitals, it's long-term care, all the things that I mentioned. So those 3 things: protecting our progress, working for workers, and let's all build Ontario together.
Thank you, Minister. There's a lot of questions in here around the relationship between the labor shortage, more jobs than people. And I see a number of leaders here from the university and college sector. You mentioned the stigma around skilled trades in the province. Some questions from the audience wonder how we address both. How do we skill people up, but also create a culture where we celebrate hardworking jobs across the value chain? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, one thing, there's many things that government does in society, and one I think that is so critical is bridging between the supply and demand of labor. And that is why we're investing so much, for example, in the skilled trades area. In the budget, I invested in March over $600 million into our labor skilled trades effort. It's why in the fall economic statement, we put another $90 million into the skilled trade strategy. And what does that mean? That means going into the grade schools, going to early learning and saying, these are good paying jobs. These are great jobs. They've, you know, in my region in Durham College does an incredible job of the jobs of tomorrow, crane operators. The average age of a crane operator is well over 50 years old. We need a new generation for good paying jobs, secure jobs. And by the way, they do a lot of the training on simulators. So technologies is a big part of the skilled trades of the future. Folks, these are really good jobs. And as I said, the gap that we have, 4.5%, not enough women. We need more women in the skilled trades. We need an inclusive economy where everyone, I mentioned racialized, First Nations, people with disabilities, immigrants, First Canadians. I'm the result of 2 World War II refugees. The opportunity was given to us by this great country for my family. So investing in labor through skilled trades, through another program would be Second Careers. What's Second Careers? It's a program where we had a worker in the Oshawa plant when it first closed, a guy named Roger. And his desire was he's a mechanic for all his career, 20, 25 years. He wanted to help others. He went on our Second Careers program, and he picked personal support workers as an area to train up. And we provided the bridge between him being out of a job to where he really wanted to go. And sometimes it's very hard to figure out, how do you bridge that? How do you get the money? How do you get the training? And he's now a personal support worker. And last time I checked, loving what he does. So I think there is a role where government can bridge the jobs of tomorrow with the workers of today.
It's a great vision for the future. There's a question here. You mentioned supply chain in your speech and in some of your responses so far. There's a question in here around our supply chain, the sensitivity of it, the global nature of it. And this is referencing our relationship with the federal government and also the Biden administration. And this question would like you to sort of double click on your thoughts on what role Ontario can play in stabilizing the supply chain.
Well, it's another great question. I have a lot of confidence in our federal counterparts in Ottawa to really champion that we are one economic bloc, Mexico, United States, and Canada. It's in no one's interest to have protectionist measures in each country. There's no, we do better when we have free trade, when we have a flow of goods and services across the borders. The evidence and the proof of that, I think, is overwhelming. One thing that Premier Doug Ford, and I've worked beside him for years now, is he's not going to relent on pounding the table to not only support Ontario's economy, Ontario's workers, Ontario's businesses, Ontario's families, but he's pounding the table with governors in the U.S. He's met, I think, over 30 of the governors. Don't fact check me on that, but it's a lot of governors that he's built relationships with. He's worked very closely with Prime Minister Trudeau and others in Ottawa to really promote Ontario and Canada's interests. Because I think when we work together, including the U.S. and Mexico, we all do a lot better.
That's great. There are 2 questions here that are sector specific, but I think they touch on the themes of your presentation. The first one talks a little bit about healthcare and access to care, and what role digital solutions might play in enabling easier access in the system. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I sure do. Carol touched on, she's right. When I got into government, I said, government, and my apologies, we've got some great public servants here, Steve Orsini, who was Secretary of Cabinet, Gregor Renchek, who's Deputy Minister of Finance, and also a fellow Hungarian. So you got 2 Hungarians in charge of the finances of the province, so.
We're in good hands.
Well, I hope you. I'd like to think so. Look, we've got a great public service, and what they're really, all 65,000 are really driven to do is modernize how we deliver the programs and services to the people of Ontario. And people want digital. You know, we need to go from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. For those over 50 years old who might remember that, I've just outed myself there. And you know, we have great talent in this province in the tech area. Great talent. We're the Silicon North. It's continuing to come here. We have the public service on the north side of College that has incredible data and incredible public servants to unleash the delivery of whether it be a digital identity or data to be used for the good of the people of Ontario, or even artificial intelligence, which will give us predictive capabilities much greater than we've had in the past. So investing in that is so critical, I think, to the future. It has so many spin-off benefits. But let me tell you this, in the budget in 2021, my first budget, and you're right, David, I got appointed, I can't remember when, December 31st, I think, and I tabled my budget. Mark Lawson smiling, he was my chief of staff there. We had less than 90 days to put forward a budget, which hasn't happened like in 2 decades. Usually I have a bit more time. And one of the things that I insisted on, that I absolutely insisted on, is that we increase our investment in broadband. We have 740,000 people in this province that either do not have access to internet or have, and you don't have to go very far, poor broadband and poor internet. Now you think about that, we started investing before COVID. I upped it to $4 billion in the budget and said we got to do this by 2025. We can't wait. It's the 21st century. People are relying on it for their health care. People didn't want to go see their physician and their doctor in COVID and sit in a waiting room. They were able to do the consultation online or over the phone. Our justice system has been, the chief justices have gotten behind modernizing the justice system in terms of making it more efficient. Our education system, we were forced to do more online education. People, small businesses, and Rocco Rossi's here representing a lot of those small businesses. Many were, in fact, the statistics said that Ontario was unprepared relative to other jurisdictions in terms of their e-commerce platforms for small businesses. So this type of investment, we said we'd do it by 2025, set the bar pretty high. And guess what? The federal government said rather than wait till 2030, they're joining us on investing in broadband for 2025. That's how you move a province forward. That's how you invest in the people of Ontario, and that's how you move forward.
Say yes. You can feel it. The campaign's coming. Affordable housing. Tim Hudak's in the room. I don't have to read Tim, I'm reading your question. I'm outing you right now. What role does the government play in increasing the supply of housing in Ontario as a way of moving the economy forward? You could have made it less Timmy on this card.
Well, Tim's been a great advocate for all things housing and worked with the federal government provincially. And let me say this, we have a lot more to do, but if you look at, just look at math, not ideology, there's been more demand over the last 5 years than supply. And forecasting out over the next 10 years, there's going to be more demand than supply. We're getting 400,000 people into this country a year. We should increase that, by the way. We're a beacon in the world. Canada is a beacon in the world. We should be very open to attracting all people from all walks of life. My parents came with just the shirt on their back, and Veterans Day, I'm getting a little off topic here, but I look and honor the people with uniforms, and my parents didn't have uniforms. They had rags on their backs. But the people in uniform allowed them to come to this country, raise a family, and generate a future Minister of Finance. Who knew? That is so important that we get more people in this province, but as we do that, they have to live somewhere. And we've ignored the supply. Tim has made that point over and over again with great advocacy that we have to find better ways to build the housing of the future, because it's just going to get worse. So let me give you a couple examples. We've done the More Choices, More Homes Act or something like that. Tim will correct me, in terms of making it easier to get through the permitting, getting through all the red tape that you have to get to build supply. We've seen some of the evidence in 2020, over 70,000 new homes were built in this province. That's the highest in a decade. 10,000, just over 10,000 purpose-built rentals were built in 2020. Folks, you know, the next highest number was back in 1992. You know, we have to get going. We have to build more. I had the honor of cutting the ribbon in Pickering on last Friday for the first microgrid community of 30 homes in Pickering that have solar panels, that have electric vehicle charging stations, and take them off the grid. So that not only reduces energy costs for them, excuse me, but it takes energy off our electric grid system. It's the wave of the future. And those cars that I talked about in the speech, you know, in 10 years, 15 years, you're going to have to choose between an electric vehicle or an electric vehicle. So we got to think about our capabilities to build more homes, to build more electric vehicles here in Ontario, to focus on our energy needs. And by the way, Ontario should be very proud, everyone in this room, that Ontario, 96% of our electricity generation in Ontario is done with zero carbon emissions. Zero carbon emissions. And we have more to do. There's some manufacturers that you still use coal. There's no coal in electricity generation in the public sector. So all this to say that I think we have to have a vision, and Tim and Steve Clark, the minister, are focused on building more supply, more choices, and that's one of the ways that we're going to continue to tackle this. And I'll finally say there's a federal minister now exclusively for housing. I think that's the first time in a long time. So we now, Steve Clark has a counterpart in Ottawa, because this is a shared responsibility for tackling housing affordability and affordable housing.
Great answer. Great answer. Okay.
Did Tim start that applause, or no? No, he didn't.
It would have been much louder. So we have 1 minute left, Minister, and I'm going to allow you to give us your final word. I heard sustainability. I heard about training. I heard about jobs. I heard about a fair economy. I heard about equity, diversity, and inclusion in your remarks. I mean, there's a lot of yes. So I'm going to hand it over to you to give us a final word.
No.
Oh.
No, yes. You know, we've talked about a lot of things today. I think one of the things that we really have to do together is continue to, in each and our every day, whether job you're in, whether you're in the public sector, in the private sector, a not-for-profit sector, you know, Ian here from Houses for Habitat for Humanity, you know, we all have a role to play to make this province and this country even better. And I just ask everyone in this room to continue doing your part each and every day, because, you know, in some small way, everyone makes a difference. I really believe in this province. I believe in this country, and I really believe that we can do better. So that would be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. I'm fired up. That's a fantastic remarks, a fantastic breakfast for us all here as we come back into the downtown core. On behalf of the Canadian Club of Toronto, we want to thank you for sharing the government's impressive plan to build a stronger province. Hopeful signs of the recovery are all around us, and there's prosperity at work. We're excited to hear about the benefits and plans around job creation, investments in training, rural and northern communities, our First Nations communities, reliable high-speed internet, and addressing the demands on our healthcare system. I think all of these messages resonated in the room this morning. We also appreciate your positive leadership and tone. I say that sincerely. It's good to know that good people are in politics, so thank you. Before I close, I want to extend another round of thanks to our sponsors, CPA Ontario, Canada Life, Labatt, and TD. Let me also take this opportunity to invite you to our next in-person event, Bring Your Vaccination Card, which is digital in Ontario. Thank you very much, Minister. It is on November 22nd. We are hosting an event at the Pilot called The Curse of Politics. It'll be a live podcast event with David Hurley, Jenny Byrne, and Scott Reed. So it will certainly be an engaging and interesting event. I'll be there. Aoi will be there. Please join us. Oh, sorry, don't join us. The event's sold out. But you can watch it online at canadianclub.org. On Tuesday, November 23rd, you can join us for the President and CEO of Export Development Canada, where she'll discuss many trends and issues that were raised at COP26. Let me conclude our time together by thanking livemeeting.ca, Canada's online event meeting space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being friendly, Stay healthy and join us next time. Good morning.